Call the meeting to order of the Wilmington City Council. I'd like to welcome all those who are with us here this evening and all those who are watching us at home. Thank you for taking an interest in your government. At this time, I'd like to introduce Sergeant Ronald Evans of the Wilmington Police Department. If you'll please come forward to give our invocation, and we'll ask if everyone will remain standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance. Sergeant, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Council. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your continued grace and mercy that you bestow upon us day in and day out. We thank you for your protection from the seen and the unseen. Lord, I ask that you continue to bless this council, touch them and guide their minds and their hearts as they prepare to make decisions that would be beneficial for every citizen of Wilmington. We pray this prayer in your Son's precious name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have two presentations this evening. Our first presentation is with Mr. Kenneth Waldroup, who's Executive Director of the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority, who will be giving us the annual report on the authority. Mr. Waldroup, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I am honored to once again be before the City Council providing a high-level summary of our annual report. Now, as you may recall, CFPUA's bylaws require an annual meeting in November where the Executive Director provides to our board an annual report, and then thereafter, I'm required to come and speak to our sponsoring agencies, the city and the county. We've provided a copy of that report for your review, and I now have the honor of giving you a quick summary in slide formation. So I'm pleased to confirm that the condition of your authority remains strong and financially sound. This year, we can highlight a few milestones that indicate progress on our board's strategic plan, which aligns with your strategic initiatives. And our work on that continues unabated. This year, we adopted a $129.35 million budget designed to address our aging infrastructure challenges and retain essential services. We have an unprecedented 112 capital projects underway, valued at $789.5 million. We had a groundbreaking for the Southside Reclamation Facility, a generational investment in our community, and we've completed the first utility consolidation with another entity since CFPUA was initially formed. This summer, we welcomed graduate students from UNC Wilmington's Cameron School of Business and the School of Business in Surrey, United Kingdom, to help us improve our organizational efficiencies and find new effectiveness. And finally, we ended the calendar year with national award recognition for our reclamation treatment facilities, our water treatment facilities, and the highest honor provided by our industry for water system utility management. Now, your water and wastewater utility continues to grow, although at a slightly slower pace than last year. We received and set 1,147 meters, which is slightly down from the 1,213 from the previous year. But the value of the infrastructure conveyed to us by the development community was $14,155,000. That's an increase of almost $3 million over the previous year. And despite a rate increase that was necessitated by the inflationary pressures that we all observed and costs associated with replacing the Southside Reclamation Facility, our water and wastewater services are still the most affordable in the region, with an average amount of customer income spent on water and sewer with our authority below that of Brunswick County, Fayetteville, and Pender County. Our system development charges also remain some of the lowest in the region, demonstrating our commitment to the economic vitality of our community. Now, as this City Council knows so well, consolidations of local government services is a difficult and labor-intensive work. Such consolidations are not taken lightly, but when they're done right, bring the value for all for decades to come. I'm pleased to report that we did it right this year. Our authority completed its consolidation with the town of Wrightsville Beach in September, a merger that meets the needs of our new partners and ensures the cost of consolidation is not borne by city or county customers. Multiple infrastructure projects are underway right now to bind our utilities closely together, and our new customers have received their last bill from the town and their first bill from CFPUA. In addition to the 1,147 meters that were set through orderly growth, we now have an additional 2,800 metered connections to share the cost burden of operational expenditures with all. Key to our vision of serving future generations is the replacement and expansion of the Southside Reclamation Facility. Originally opened 53 years ago, this community asset now stands ready for total replacement. Our board has begun the work necessary to provide the next 50 years through the award of 2 major contracts under progressive design build philosophies. Final costs are expected to be known by March of this year, and our board will vote on the largest and most important of the final contracts as early as May of 2026, at the same meeting where they will approve our next budget. Our end goal, though, remains the same. It's unchanged. We'll replace this existing facility and we'll add additional capacity to support orderly growth. And we will achieve this goal and we'll open this new facility by 2029. Now, good governance is the hallmark of a well-run local government. Our utility continues to receive national recognition for operational and management policies of our board. Our strategic plan was formed from the goals and objectives of our board and is based upon the effective utility management principles, our industry's primary guidance for best governance practice and continuous improvement. Last year, we were invited, along with a handful of other utilities, to be part of the update to this national guidance, all based on our success and experience recently. And this year, we received our industry's highest award for water system utility management, the Association of Metropolitan Water Agencies Platinum Award for Utility Excellence. We've been recognized by our peers, the largest and most complex utilities in the nation, as a national utility of note. Now the burden falls upon us to maintain that status and to drive forward through innovation and positive change for our utility and our industry. And I want to recognize our board members, past and present, for their vision, foresight, and discipline, and unwavering commitment to public service. And I want to thank our staff for translating that board's vision into reality. Now, ongoing maintenance of our water infrastructure is critically important, from projects designed to sustain our community to projects designed to support tomorrow. Your utility continues to put its board's strategic capital improvement plan into action. We work hard to leverage technology and gain new efficiencies, and we're undertaking some important economic development projects to the north and south of New Hanover County to serve the customers of tomorrow. But it's important to note that these projects will leverage those new customers and their new revenue to ease the burdens on our most vulnerable current customers, many of which are within the city. And it's our job to ensure the city of Wilmington and New Hanover County continues to have the best utility possible, operated and maintained at the lowest possible cost, while remaining responsible and responsive to our community needs, now and in the future. Finally, as a special purpose unit of local government, we honor the public trust to hold ourselves to the highest fiduciary standards. As established in our latest annual comprehensive financial report, your authority is healthy and well managed, with revenues to cover expenditures as well as fund this robust and growing capital improvement plan. Our board has taken prudent steps to ensure our financial needs are met through measured, well thought out financial policies and community investments. So I want to acknowledge that we could not accomplish any of this without the steadfast support that we have received from the city for so many years, and for the hard work that your staff puts in to make that a reality. So on behalf of our customers, our staff, and our stakeholders, we would like to thank you and your staff for that support. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions, Mr. Council? Yes, sir, Mr. Joy.
Just wanted to say thank you for the presentation and for your continued leadership with the authority. I know at our last board meeting, we discussed some opportunities for folks to come online essentially with connections, and that's going to be outside the city, but it's coming through state funds and settlement funds. Could you talk a little bit about that just so we can continue to raise awareness? Because there's an opportunity to connect. It's free, but it's a one-time opportunity. People, if they pass up, they're not going to be able to connect for free in the future.
Yes, so through the hard work of our local General Assembly delegation and through the generous work that this council and the Board of Commissioners have undertaken, we've received over the last three and a half years, nearly $28 million in funding to extend water lines to communities that currently do not have public water service. We're putting those water lines in communities out in the county that have contaminated wells, contaminated with PFAS. And it's important for those community members to know that this is a one-time offer. The grant funding covers everything from soup to nuts. It will completely install the pipe to their property and install the connection on their property to their house. And it'll pay the system development fees. That's an extremely generous grant process. Again, through the hard work of our community leaders to actually have that money flow into our community. And it's a one-time offer, so we're going to be knocking on doors and working very hard to educate those community members and ask them to join the CFPUA family.
Kenneth, since we have you here, and I know it's been in the news, and I know you've been at the point of the spear in respect to the interbasin transfer issue that we're dealing with Apex. Could you kind of give us a little bit of an update? I don't know if a lot of people in here are aware of it, but I think we need to be aware of the challenges that we're facing, because the Cape Fear River is where we get our water source, not only us, but Fayetteville and everybody downstream from Fayetteville also depends on that water source for their communities. And we're starting to see now this interbasin, I guess, fight happening where other communities in the middle part of the state are trying to get into our drinking water and take it for their uses. Could you kind of share with us what is happening and what do you feel will be the next steps in this process?
Absolutely, and briefly, I want to acknowledge that the city of Wilmington has been a long-time champion in preventing others from permanently taking our water supply away from us. So we're building on all the good work that the city has done in the past. What's the problem? There are multiple river basins within North Carolina, and above us, one of the fastest growing regions in the nation, the Raleigh region, the Raleigh Metroplex region, is in desperate need of water. And there are some utilities up there that would like to take water out of the Cape Fear River Basin, which flows down to us, use it, but then they don't want to pay to return it. They want to discharge it somewhere else where it's more cost effective for them. The latest of these requests, these interbasin transfer requests, is with the town of Fuquay-Varina. They're asking for 6 million gallons a day permanently removed from our water supply, 27,000 homes in equivalent. And what we've said is pretty simple. We want to be a good neighbor. We want you to be successful. Borrow the water, but clean it up and return it to us so we can use it downstream. We've been very successful in delivering that message, and you yourselves have taken a very public stance in asking the Environmental Management Commission, the decision-making body, to require this return. So as our parents at the county commissioners have done great work. So have a number of the communities that are elsewhere here in New Hanover County, Brunswick County, Pender County. We have also see members of the greater community, the Home Builders Association, the Chamber of Commerce, Clean Cape Fear, the Realtors Association, all standing together, locked in arm, saying it's important to our region that you don't take our future. So this is a process. We have a chance to comment in the public process up till April 1st. We're asking for a hearing here in New Hanover County. If they grant it to us, we'll need a space. We'll need some help. And what that hearing officer would do would come down here, and then we'd gather all those community leaders together so you would have a chance to speak to them about the importance of returning that water. And once the public hearing closes, then the Environmental Management Commission will make a decision. I publicly stated this: if they choose to permanently remove water from us, it's only the first. There's a need for more than 50 million gallons of water up in that region by 2030, 2031, and more than 150 over the next 50 years, 150 million. So we have to stand firm and remind our neighbors upstream that this is a shared resource. And if we have to go to court to establish that, it would be my recommendation to my board that we do so.
Very good. Okay. Yes, Ms. Santana.
So I remember in November, the city council passed a resolution opposed to the IBT. I can't remember if that included a request for a hearing in our region. It did?
Indeed.
Okay,
And so
fantastic.
far, we have not been granted that. We're still crossing our fingers, and we've had conversations, I think, with the governor's office and with the DEQ secretary. But so far, the gentleman that is in the chair of
The chair of the Environmental Management Commission, as we understand, is the decision maker in this. And we've been fortunate to have community leaders like yourself reach out to him. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for making that phone call. Hope springs eternal. I think that if enough people asked, that they will change their mind and they will grant us an opportunity to speak to them in person instead of driving to Raleigh to do so. But if they don't, then of course we'll have to take that through mitigation. And if they choose to authorize the transfer, we'll of course have to take that to court because this water is too precious. It's somewhere between $45 and $60 a gallon to replace.
Wow.
That's unfair to us. It's picking winners and losers. So I speak to the Environmental Management Commission, who I'm going to send a copy of this recording. Please be good neighbors and ensure that the water resource is borrowed in return.
Fair enough. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for your good work there, too. Thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Rachel Schuler, who is the Director of Housing and Neighborhood Services, and they will be giving us an update on the shelter strategy. Schuler?
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. I'm here this evening to give an update on the shelter strategy. Looking back, just for some background, in 2024, the city and county held a strategy planning process aimed to address the unsheltered homelessness in the county. The strategy included conversations with individuals experiencing homelessness, service providers, and community partners, and the implementation of the strategy was developed to be a collaborative effort due to the varying authorities and service delivery capacity of both the city, county, and our partners. One of the opportunities for success that was highlighted is shown in the middle, that increasing the capacity of facilities to meet the needs of the unsheltered population. These opportunities were developed based off of the data, gaps in services, again, interviews with persons with lived experiences, and discussions with the working group that held multiple sessions over the last year. One of the highest identified priorities was meeting the basic needs of unsheltered individuals with minimal barriers with low and no barrier shelters. When we talk about barriers, we're talking about low barrier. You may have a person with active addiction, they may have mental or physical disabilities, and so that's really where you're seeing Good Shepherd. Where you get into the extremely low or no barrier is when you're looking at folks that may have some criminal background, that may not be able to be in the same population as families or children. And so understanding that different shelters have different capacity and ability to serve different people. And so looking at these shelters, again, ensuring there's access to the personal hygiene, whether that's shower, washing trailers, things like that. But then again, the connection to the mental and physical health and safety, but then also that connection, that housing, case-focused, solution-centered services are very important. And so there are a number of day and evening shelters throughout the city. There are limited or no capacity for these extremely low barrier or no barrier. Again, you have Good Shepherd where they're the low barrier shelter. Living Hope Day Shelter is limited in their hours of operation. So that's where this conversation has really been coming from. During this conversation, council had directed staff to look at potential property conveyance of city-owned properties. In looking at the various city-owned properties, we were looking at different uses, the zoning, what would be allowed by right, what would need to be rezoned, what are the neighboring uses. When you're talking about these different barriers, having some of those facilities next door to a daycare or a school may not obviously be an option. Proximity to services, how do we connect folks to the resources off-site to really help plug them into the community resources? Looking at access to transportation. Are they close to bus routes? Are they accessible by walking, biking, those types of situations? And then finally, the point in time count. Where are people already located? Instead of trying to drive people to some of these services, can we locate those services around where they are already existing? And so there's also some other considerations that to take into account from the last year. Good Shepherd Center, for example, has received rapid housing money. One of our greatest solutions to homelessness is housing, and looking at these grants, this one came from the endowment, they've been able to increase the number of folks they've been able to house, which is phenomenal. They also have 2 projects, the SECU The Sparrow, which is 32 units of permanent supportive housing. They'll be opening hopefully this summer, as well as a planned campus expansion. And then the Salvation Army opening in last year with 75 new beds that also have some day activities as well. All of this to say is that people are moving through this ecosystem a little bit differently than they were a year ago and will continue to move through it differently. Well, these permanent supportive housing may free up beds in some of the shelters, and just understanding that there's a lot of changing conditions in the physical space as well as the financial space. There's been some changing HUD funds that are moving around, and just understanding that that landscape has changed over the past year. In addition to those considerations, there's also some other factors. The city is nearing the completion of the Greater Downtown Plan. They are also developing a Northern Downtown Master Plan. And then additionally, just reviewing all of the city holdings as part of this larger needs discussion. And so with that, the following recommendations are being presented to you this evening. One of the ideas is that before we select a site, to identify a lead partner for the shelter. Those folks would be able to understand the capacity to take on this no to low barrier shelter, coordinating services with resource providers, and being able to apply their knowledge to an appropriate site location. Instead of just, talking with some of the local providers, are there other providers that may come into this community to be able to offer these services? And along with that, following the request for information, putting out a request for proposal, again, to find that lead partner. Then also reviewing all the city-owned properties as part of that larger needs discussion and planning process. And then one of the other topics that came up was the need for a summer point-in-time count to really validate what the changing condition is from this January, when it typically takes place, to summer. When are we feeling a difference? People may see a difference. Is that really validated? And it also allows the community to really focus on the questions they want to know. This would not be a HUD-sanctioned one, and so the questions could be adapted to fit the needs and requests of council to make sure that we're asking the right questions to these folks. So with that, I have discussion, and I'm open for any other ideas.
Are there any questions? Sir, Mr. Joyner?
As we begin to plan the summer point-in-time count, is that going to look quite similar to what we see for the one that's done through the COC? Because they're a multiple county agency mandated by the federal government, but it sounds like we really want to drill down on what's happening within city limits, but they're the ones who have the blueprint for how to do this.
We would absolutely be coordinating with the continuum of care. A lot of off-cycle point-in-time counts can be more service-based, where you're not always, just searching the woods. Maybe you know where those encampments are. You know, our service providers know where those folks are, and they're able to help connect and provide some of that. Maybe it's hospital discharge. So there's different ways of doing it. And while we could focus here, there may be others in the region that find value in also coordinating at that time. And so that would be a discussion with the COC if they want to expand that to their whole region with this count.
Ms. Andrews?
Speaking of the point-in-time count, when is the winter point-in-time count going to be done, and are they going to be doing a call for volunteers?
We were on a call this morning. They're finalizing the details, and I will make sure that information gets pushed out. But typically, they look for volunteers, especially in Brunswick and Pender County, as you can imagine. But I will pass that information along. It's in this month. It's in a few weeks.
And a second question, if I may. I got this from one of our service providers, and you might not know this. I might have to refer this to the city manager, but what is the status of hiring of the social workers?
Is our police chief here? I saw him earlier. Yep, standing right out there. I know that we advertised for the positions. Chief Zudema, can you speak to where we are in the hiring of the social workers?
Good evening. We're in the process of still conducting interviews. I know several of those have been done. We've not yet hired any of them. Once the interviews are done, there'll be a background investigation they obviously have to go through. So at this point, still in the hiring process.
Okay. Do you anticipate, do we have an anticipated time when they might be on board?
My hope is within the next couple of months, but some of that will depend on how those background investigations come through.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Chief, well, while I got you there, could you give us an update on some of the activity that's been taking place downtown since the last ordinance, and we had this term bad actors? Has it been calm, or has it maintained, or has it heightened, or do you know?
And when you're speaking, are you referencing the camping ordinance?
Right, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so to my knowledge, we haven't seen necessarily an increase or decrease per se. Certainly, if you want, I can get you numbers and we can provide those to you. But I wouldn't say that there's been an influx in enforcement of that or anything different than what we've traditionally seen. But I'd be happy to provide council with any numbers if you'd like those.
It seems a lot calmer.
Okay.
So I just wanted to know if you would know better than I.
Yeah.
Down there that often, but
yeah, I mean, overall, our crime numbers for the year are down. That's something we'll provide to you when we do the upcoming meeting with you all. We have that prepared for you to share with you. But overall, numbers are down. But I'd be happy to address anything specific if you'd like.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Chief, we have another question here. Sorry, Clinton.
Sorry, Chief. Specifically, I would love to see if any infractions have been given regarding those, the homeless ordinance that was passed last year.
Okay, yep,
Thank
we can certainly get that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Anyone else? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Rachel, in respect to the low barrier shelter, this be, I know that we have one that I think operates during the day, correct?
Are you speaking of Living Hope at First Baptist? Yes, that is not every day. It's limited in their hours and the days that they're open, but yes.
So this would be the first of its kind in the city?
Of a extremely low,
of a low
extremely
barrier
low.
shelter.
Extremely low, yes.
Yeah.
This would be.
So this would be the very first one?
Yes.
And I would imagine that you all have, I'm sure you would have reached out to other communities that do have low barrier shelters in regards to the process as to how they handle security, how they handle folks that are coming in and, the times. And I would imagine it would be open 24 hours a day?
That would be the ideal. As Councilmember Joyner and I were able to take a trip to Greensboro to see the Interactive Resource Center, and that's just an example of an example of how it could. Or there's other models in other communities that we'll look into. And that's really where coming with the lead partner is going to come into play, because they're going to be able to maybe give us some of the best practices that they've found in other communities as well.
So are you going to depend on the lead partner to determine the number of beds or the space needs for this particular low-barrier shelter for our community?
As far as the scale for this community, I would envision no more than 50, probably in the 30 to 40, maybe swelling up to 50 under extreme circumstances. But that seems, as we're looking at sizes, that seems to be the correct scale for some of these smaller sites, which before they get unmanageable.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
thank you. Anybody? Ms. Lau?
Thanks. I have a quick question about your scope, maybe. I know on your list of activities there and things that were funded, it included rental assistance of some kind. Is that for folks getting back into housing, like giving them a boost out of housing, or is that to help prevent folks from getting into homelessness, like people who are already housed, keeping them housed when they're in crisis?
It's a great question. So the current grant that I was speaking about was rapid rehousing, which gets people into housing. But that is something that we'll look at of both the eviction prevention as well as the rental assistance. So kind of capturing both sides. Definitely opportunities for funding with some of our funding that we have currently, whether it's the local dollars or some of the federal dollars, as we look to shift any of our programming if that's what is the desire, you know.
And that's some of that housing navigation folks are at the Harrelson Center that are helping with some of that?
Absolutely.
Great, thanks. Because I understand there's a lot of new folks in these point-in-time counts. 70 to 80% are experiencing homelessness for the first time. Is that?
The Cape Fear Regional COC is very successful, and I say that as the COC is a partnership, right? So it's all the partner agencies. And so the success has really been that once someone has been housed, they are less likely to be homeless again. So it's a lot of people experiencing it for the first time. And so that's why once we're getting people housed, it's been successful that they're staying housed.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's great, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great, thank
Rachel.
you.
Thank you. Our next item of business is our consent agenda, items 1 through 6. Are there any items that any council member would like to hear separately? If not, what are the wishes of council?
I want C4 pool.
C4? Anybody else? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items C1 through C6 excluding C4? We have a motion by Councilmember Andrews, second by Councilmember Santaguida. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item passes unanimously. At this time, I'd like to recognize Mayor Pro Tem Spears. Ms. Spears?
I guess this question is for Becky. Becky, who, or maybe it's for Meredith, who put these bylaws together?
I think that one's actually for me.
Oh, Meredith.
You got me. So these bylaws were based on the previous bylaws, so we went with that as a basis and then went through them and made additions and changes. For instance, when the county was a partner with us, there were certain provisions in there that we changed, and we took out the fact that the county's not involved anymore, that type of thing.
Right, well, the issue that I'm having is the membership. And I think if we really want to get down into what the issue is, the membership here is just a little too high level for me, for my liking. A member of the Cape Fear Realtors Association, a developer of affordable housing units, Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association, the Cape Fear Housing Coalition, the Wilmington Chamber of Commerce, Wilmington Housing Authority, a member representing a nonprofit organization that provides housing, service to housing insecure population, one member representing a resident of a designated affordable housing unit, and one member representing a commercial lender. I don't see how we actually get down into affordability within our community with such high level members of this committee. And so I think we really need to get a little more organic, or get a little more, I'm gonna use the word real. We need to just get realer as it relates to how we provide the help that we're looking to do in the community. That just seems too high level for me. And I don't know if I hadn't talked to anybody else up here about it, and I don't know how they feel about it, but it's too professional for me. I don't think we have people who get to provide. And I'm not saying that they don't have good input or they wouldn't have good input, but I think some of the answers that we need come from people that are really within the community, and I don't really get that vibe from this membership.
So we'll let you know that I believe that the first 5 and maybe 6 were holdovers. Those were established in the previous committee, as well as potential representatives. I know that, and I spoke in detail with Councilmember Andrews, who I believe had also spoken to several other members of the council, and that's where kind of these last 3 came in for needing a resident who lives in an affordable unit, for more focus on, for having someone from a nonprofit that provides housing services, and then a member, actually that's closer up to the top, that's a developer of affordable housing units in the region. And so those were the inputs that I received from other members of council to add additional members instead of just the previous ones that were there. And we changed one at-large member to one of these members as well. And the other change that we made in addition to the membership was adding in the word affordability. It just was the Wilmington Housing Advisory Committee, and now it's the Housing Affordability Advisory Committee, and that was also at the request of Councilmember Andrews. I don't know if she'd like to address the membership issues as well.
Yeah, I think before it was actually the joint committee was the Workforce Housing Advisory Committee, and we wanted to expand it more. I think we had talked about that when we pulled it the last time that this came before us. And I know I said I wanted to expand it to include more than just the traditional concept of workforce housing, that we wanted to include all levels of affordability. And yeah, I really wanted to include somebody with lived experience in an affordable housing unit, at least one, and somebody who was working in a nonprofit that provides services to housing insecure population. Somebody, instead of just a developer, I wanted it specifically to be a developer of affordable housing. So we did tweak this from what it was before to include more people with experience in that realm.
And I hear you, and I will say to you both, I don't really care what it's called. That's not really my issue. My issue is the members. And how we provide the help, and how we get the knowledge that helps us to help people. I think that was the same issue that I had with when we changed the membership for WDI, and maybe it wasn't WDI, it was the social districting people that we were putting, the members that we were putting on certain boards. I don't think this is it. I think we need more representation from actual people from the community who actually live these experiences. And one person is not enough. Not one person that just lives that experience who has a challenge to affordability within our community. And we understand what affordability is. And Meredith, so when you say you spoke to the council, I don't know, did you speak to the new council? Or did you just speak to the old council? But I hadn't heard from you or Celeste on this issue. So I don't know. I kind of want to see us go back to the drawing board as far as membership. But that's just my thought. I'm just one member of 7.
Well, I don't have a problem in us revisiting the membership, since we're going to be carrying this forward as a community. I do have a concern about, it's the City of Wilmington Housing Affordability Advisory, and understanding that 98% of the property in the City of Wilmington has been developed, and people thinking that we alone are going to take care of all of the affordable housing needs. That's why we had it as a New Hanover County, City of Wilmington, because the vast majority of land left in the county is in the unincorporated areas. And although they're not at the table today, they may be in the future. We don't know. You have elections that come up every 2 years, and there may be another group of people with a different mindset that feels that affordable housing is important, not only in the city of Wilmington, but also in the county of New Hanover, because this is also a county issue, understanding that 93%, we were talking about this before we came on this evening, we've had an increase of 93% of housing stock. I mean, that's the cost that has gone up 93%. And so this affordability issue is not just the city of Wilmington. And I hear the same thing sometimes when people say the Wilmington Housing Authority, which was mandated by HUD, and people think it's the city of Wilmington. And it's confusing. And I just think I'm not going to allow folks to get off the hook for affordability, because affordability is a big issue today. I do believe that the folks that are part of this committee that have been identified are important parts, because they're going to be the ones building and financing a lot of this. But I also agree with you, Kevin, that we do need more folks that are giving us their real life experiences of affordability and what it means to have affordable housing. So if we want to pull this back, give us some time just to think it through and decide what additional members we want to put on is fine with me. But I do feel that the name is sending a message to the community, like a lot of people think that we take care of all of these issues. And this is a community of not only the city of Wilmington, but also of New Hanover County that has to be at the table at some point in time. And they were there for a while, and they may come back at some point in time, but I'm not going to let them off the hook either, because I think it's important that we continue to have dialogue, whether they're there with us today or not, but somewhere in the future.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I understand what you're saying, but I think for the time being, I think we need to continue to serve our constituents that we represent. And I think reviving this committee in some way so that we continue the conversation with the right people about housing affordability in the city is absolutely important. I hope the county comes back to the table, but I don't think that we should wait for them to do that before we take action on this.
And I'm sorry, Cassie, I didn't mean it that we
Okay.
should wait. I was just addressing Kevin's point about the new membership, but also what we name this, I think is also very important, because I think it just sends a mixed message that we're the only ones talking about affordable housing. And I think we are right now. But I also think that other governmental agencies at some point in time need to come back to the table. I'm all for moving this thing forward, but adding additional membership to this committee that addresses the concerns that Kevin has outlined, because I do agree we need to hear from those folks.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so if we pull it back.
Two or three? And I know I'm probably the most difficult person to get in contact with, but I promise if you reach out to me about this, I'll answer phone calls and I'll text back if need be. But I think it's important. I really do think it's important. And if anybody looks at this, it just looks too high level, and it doesn't look like we get the information that we need so we can help the people that need the help.
So 3 members from the affordable,
Yeah,
3 residents of affordable housing? Well, I'd like to move this and with the addition of 2 additional members of designated affordable housing units. So a total of 3.
All right. I appreciate that. I second.
Okay. Thought I moved it.
We're adding we're adding 3 members or 2 members?
We're adding 2 members for a total of,
Total of 11.
so it'll be a total of 11.
Okay.
Right.
Very
And I
good.
can make those changes, and I'll get it to the city clerk.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Okay with that? Okay, want to make the motion? Okay, we already have it, I'm sorry. Okay, we have a motion made by Councilmember Andrews, second by Councilmember Santaguida. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 No, for some reason mine is not. It passes unanimously. That brings us to our next item of business, which is our public information. We have 3 speakers that have signed up to speak with us this evening. First speaker is Ms. Maddie Willis, who lives in the city of Wilmington, who's talking to us about 3/4 of the council member decision to discriminate and disrespect human rights of Wilmington residents. Is Ms. Willis here. Okay. Second speaker is Mr. Joel Barrio. I think I pronounced your name properly. Lives also in the city of Wilmington, speaking about Avelo Airlines' $150 million contract with ICE.
Hello. Sorry for the mask. Got a little sick over the holidays, but just want to thank you for letting me speak here, and want to thank all the new city council members on your victory. Hopefully we can have a lot of good positive change in the next term. But yes, my name is Joel. I'm representing DSA, Democratic Socialist America, our chapter here in Wilmington. Speaking about Avelo Airlines, their budget airline here in ILM Airport. They have 7 bases across the country, but they have 3 in North Carolina. And the issue with them is that they're the only commercial airline that has a contract with ICE. Specifically, they signed a $150 million contract in April. And their CEO, Andrew Levy, even stated when he signed the deportation contract that it was too valuable not to pursue. And since then, there's been a lot of pushback and protests across the nation, and Avelo's changed their strategy, even says that the contract is a rumor. Technically, they are a subcontractor through CSI Aviation, but again, they've still received $150 million through ICE. They've flown at least 1,500 deportation flights, according to an ICE Flight Monitor report. And the Association of Flight Attendants, CWA, which represents the Avelo flight attendants, they released a statement saying that having an entire flight of people handcuffed and shackled would hinder any evacuation and risk injury or death. It also impedes their ability to respond to medical emergencies, fire on boards, decompression, etc. They cannot do their jobs in these conditions. So yeah, these people, there are migrants on these planes, people rounded up by ICE that are being not given all of their constitutional rights, and they're being handcuffed and shackled on these flights, causing potential injuries. And there actually was a reported issue in November with one of these deportation flights through Avelo. Avelo even has 3 of their own planes painted completely white to fly these deportation flights anonymously, so it doesn't muddy up their brand image. And it's just, we just want to try to stop the amount of money that they can get, which is why, here in Wilmington, the Wilmington Tourism Development Authority, the TDA, provides funds to the ILM Airport, and they agree that for every new route that an airline creates, they get $125,000 in free advertising funds. Avelo added 2 new routes last year, so that brings their free money to $250,000 last year. And a lot of municipalities are fighting back across the country. And an example I want to bring up is that our sister city, Wilmington, Delaware, in November, their city council passed a resolution prohibiting city contracts, advertising funds, and official travel with companies that collaborate with ICE deportation operations. It demonstrates that municipalities can take principled, lawful steps to ensure public funds are not used to support harmful federal enforcement practices. And if any city council members would like to meet and learn more about Avelo's ICE contract, the nationwide protests it sparked, and explore how we can work together to suppress ICE's money supply at every conceivable level, this is something that our group, DSA, and all of our coalition members would greatly appreciate that conversation. Thank you for your time, your service, and your willingness to engage with the concerns of your constituents. And have a nice day.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mr. Christopher Skane, who also lives in the city of Wilmington, and will be speaking to us about the rise in anti-Semitism. Is Mr. Skane here? Skane? Okay. All right, this concludes our public information segment. This brings us to our next item of business, which is our public hearings. Item PH1 is an ordinance amending the Land Development Code, Chapter 18, to modify dimensional and building orientation standards within the R3 medium high-density mixed residential zoning district. At this time, I'd like to recognize our city manager, Ms. Becky Hawk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. This item will be presented by our planning director, Linda Painter.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of council. The application that you have before you this evening originally started with an applicant-initiated petition to amend the land development code, primarily to remove the minimum lot area requirement for duplexes in the R3 district, which is 4,000 square feet currently, and to reduce rear setbacks from 15 feet to 10 feet. This petition was heard by the Planning Commission in October of 2025, and subsequent to the Planning Commission's recommendation of approval, staff worked with the applicant to consider different approaches that instead of eliminating the minimum lot area, looking at a reduction and an incentive-based approach that would allow for expanding areas for duplexes, but at the same time protecting neighborhood character. And so the applicant withdrew the petition prior to the City Council public hearing that was scheduled for November. And staff initiated this application, or this proposal, which is before you. And so 2 of the items are the exact same as what was in the applicant-initiated petition. One, and to be honest, the first one, correcting a typographical error in the purpose statement, was something that staff had identified during our review of that initial petition. The second one, again, reducing the rear setbacks and then reducing the minimum lot area. So walking you through each of these, I wanted to start with just explaining where the R3 zoning district is. So the R3 zoning district currently only exists in our greater downtown area, which is the neighborhoods that were part of the city in 1945. A range of housing types is currently permitted within this district if lot areas is met, including single-family, duplex, triplex, quadruplex, etc. The R3 lots are currently permitted if you are for an attached or detached accessory dwelling unit with a single unit dwelling with no minimum lot area. So if you have a single dwelling and you want to have an accessory dwelling unit, there's no minimum lot area requirement for you. So if you have a 1,000 square foot lot, you can have that single dwelling, you can add an accessory dwelling unit to it, and that's fine. However, if you would like to have a duplex in the same district, so again, 2 units, just no limitation on the size of the second unit like there is with the accessory dwelling unit, you are required to have a 4,000 square foot minimum lot area in order to accommodate those 2 units. So the proposed amendments, as I said, the first one is pretty simple. We want to replace missed use with mixed use. So little typo there that we missed. The second one on the rear setback is to reduce the rear setback from 15 feet to 10 feet. And if you look at the 2 diagrams on your screen, in the middle of the screen, it shows you the current rear setback requirement. So if you have a lot that goes from a street to an alleyway, your setback on that main street is going to be 10 feet, but your rear setback from the alleyway is 15 feet. On the other hand, if you have a lot that fronts on an alley today, the front setback, because they have no other frontage on a street, their only frontage is on the alley, is 10 feet. And so you have that difference along that alley of 15 feet if it's considered the rear of the lot, or 10 feet if it's considered the front of the lot. So the proposal would essentially make that consistent for all lots, and you can see that with the result on the right side, in the graphic on the right side of the screen. In terms of reducing the lot area for duplexes, the proposal is to authorize a reduction to 2,500 square feet when certain building orientation standards are met. So under this proposal, if you have a 4,000 square foot lot today, you can have a duplex. You can continue to have a duplex with no building orientation standards. You can just go and get your building permit to do that duplex on 4,000 square feet. What this does do is open up the opportunity for lots between 2,500 square feet and 4,000 square feet to potentially have a duplex if they meet certain orientation standards. So again, providing an incentive to ensure that we are protecting neighborhood character while at the same time providing a little bit of flexibility to add additional missing middle housing types. So the illustration in the center of your screen depicts what these orientation standards are. So the first standard would require that building siding and orientation be consistent with the primary block face. So if you look at this photo, you will see that all of the buildings have a very similar setback from the street. So what we want to do is make sure that if you're coming in with a new duplex on a lot smaller than 4,000 square feet, you're maintaining that kind of setback character along the street. And you're consistent with what is to either side of you. So not something much smaller, not something much deeper in terms of a setback. we want to make sure that your facade is oriented to that primary street consistent with the block face. So this would really come in on a corner lot. So if you think about if you're on a corner lot looking at the lot across the street and saying, well, where is that house oriented? What is that pattern? To which street are the houses oriented if on the corners? The third one would require an entrance facing the primary street. The fourth condition, it would require a front porch of at least 8 feet deep and 50% of the width of the facade. And this is really based on the fact that when you look at the character of our housing stock in the 1945 corporate limits, this is a typical pattern where you will see front porches on homes. And then the last requirement deals with essentially windows and doors or fenestration and transparency that would be equivalent to at least 25% of the front facade. That requirement would only apply within the National Register Historic Districts, and it would not apply to houses that are existing or permitted as of today. In other words, if you are already in the permit process, we would not add that new requirement. The reason that requirement is only proposed for the National Register Historic District is because when you look at state statutes in terms of what we are allowed to do as a municipality, we are specifically prohibited from doing certain things, including dealing with windows and doors, unless you are in a historic district. And so that is why we have limited that specific proposal. The front porch, if we talked about materials, if we talked about roof types, would also be prohibited under statutes. But in working with our legal counsel, the determination was requiring a front porch in and of itself was something that we could do in terms of building orientation, because we're not getting into specific design standards such as colors, material, roof types. If someone has an alternative, and this is something that the Planning Commission discussed at length, particularly regarding the porch, understanding that there are different architectural treatments that you can use to achieve what we're trying to do with those building orientation standards, there is a process through the Design Adjustment Committee. And the reason we wanted to highlight this is that I think many of you are probably familiar with the Board of Adjustment, which has 4 criteria that you have to meet all of those criteria, and one of them is it cannot be a self-created hardship, which is very difficult to do on new construction when you can design your project to meet the standards that are in place, unless there's something very unique to your property that prevents you from doing that. The waiver standards for the Design Adjustment Committee are different. So these are kind of paraphrasing what they are, but you only have to meet one of these requirements. So if someone said, you know what, a front porch is just not consistent with the architectural style of the building that I want to do, but here are these other elements I'm going to include in order to address the intent of that standard, they would have the ability to go to the Design Adjustment Committee and ask for that. And I think I mentioned, but I do want to, it was specifically requested by the chair of the Planning Commission that I mentioned that there was a lot of discussion about that porch requirement for a front porch, and concern was expressed about doing that. They did ultimately vote for in support of this amendment, 7-0, but did request that we share that with the council, that they did have a great deal of debate on that porch standard and recommendation. In closing, in reviewing the proposal, staff finds that it would increase housing options while preserving key elements that contribute to existing neighborhood development pattern. It would reduce a significant barrier to missing middle housing, and encourages housing near services where infrastructure already exists. And for that reason, we believe the proposal is generally consistent with the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan and recommend approval.
Any questions for Linda?
Mr. Mayor, before we get into discussion, I believe that Councilmember Lyle has a motion to recuse, given that she was the initial applicant that then withdrew her application.
Ms. Law?
I was, with regard to the item, I wanted everybody to know I'm the mystery applicant she described, and since I had put that forward for one of my clients, I'm certainly willing to recuse myself from the discussion and vote for this item. But I think that the changes they made were made it better, so that's why I withdrew my application and let the staff handle it.
Okay, so we have a motion. We're going to recuse you from this specific vote. So do we have a motion to recuse Ms. Councilmember Law from this particular item? We have Mayor Pro Tem Spears has made the motion, second Councilmember Andrews. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. You thereby recuse Ms. Lau. Okay. So we, of course, the city of Wilmington is the applicant here, so we've already done the application. So I'm going to open up the public hearing and ask if anyone in the public wishes to speak on this particular item, they'll come forward. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, have you received any additional comments on this particular item?
No, sir, I have not.
Okay. Are there any council members who'd like to ask any additional questions?
I just have one question, Linda. The porch requirement, does that apply to any other dwelling types in this zone, or is this just for duplexes?
This would only be for duplexes and only on lots that are less than 4,000 square feet. So again, this is essentially trying to create an incentive to say we're willing to open the door to allowing these units on smaller lots, but in order to ensure better neighborhood consistency, that's one of the orientation standards that would be applied.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Mr. Joyner?
Going back to the image that you showed us with the lettering, we're talking about, we keep saying street setbacks, but in this example, it would be setback from the sidewalk. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Generally speaking, the R3 district, the main streets typically have sidewalks. So that's how people would experience it.
Thank you. I was just going to point out of the places that we successfully have gotten sidewalks, this is consistently where those are. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Thank you, Linda. I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for the wishes of council in respect to the item, and I will also note that whoever makes the motion must read a consistency statement for the record. We have a motion approved by Councilmember Andrews, second by Councilmember Joyner. Ms. Andrews, will you please read the consistency statement for the record?
I move to approve the proposed amendment to the Land Development Code and find it to be consistent with the relevant policies in the comprehensive plan based on the application materials and the information provided at the public hearing and in the staff report, and to find approval of the request is reasonable and in the public interest for the following reasons. The proposed amendment will create opportunities for housing types while maintaining a consistent development pattern within the R3 district.
Okay, very good. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. I also note for the record that my device here is not working on the things. I'm doing this by voice vote. Mr. Dillon? There we go. Okay. Do we have a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Councilmember Andrews, second by Councilmember Joyner. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first as well as second reading. That brings us to our next item of business, which is our ordinances. Item 01 is an ordinance making supplemental appropriation in the amount of $4,071,670 from the sale of surplus property to fund leaseback cost and pay debt service on the Skyline Center. And at this time, I'd like to recognize our city manager, Ms. Hawk. Ms. Hawk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. This item will be presented by our Finance Director, Martha Wayne.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. The item before you today appropriates funding related to the sale of property located at 1702 Bernard Boulevard. What this ordinance will do is it will appropriate approximately $3.9 million to go towards the payment of the variable interest rate portion of the Skyline debt. With this payment, that would actually bring the outstanding balance down to approximately $4.7 million. The remaining portion would go towards the lease back of the property. This would allow the city to continue to lease the property while the building is being built at a different location. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Are there any questions for staff? This is good news.
It is great news.
So the original variable debt service on this building was $20 million?
It was $23.8 million, and had we gone and made payments based on the original schedule and not made the prepayments, the anticipated pay down would have been not completed until June 30 of 2031. So by using the sale of the properties and making the prepayments over the years, we are well ahead of schedule.
Fantastic. That's good news. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Appreciate it. What are the wishes of council in respect to the ordinance? We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Spears, second by Councilmember Chiquima Quintana. Anybody else? And any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Councilmember Joyner, second by Mayor Pro Tem Spears. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first as well as second reading. Next item is item O2A, which is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a supplemental agreement with the North Carolina Department of Transportation to receive additional funding for the milling and resurfacing of Dawson Street and Wooster Street from 3rd Street to 17th Street, and then the ordinance, which is item O2B, which is an ordinance making the supplemental appropriation in the amount of $254,000 from the North Carolina Department of Transportation to the Streets and Sidewalks Capital Projects Fund for the milling and resurfacing of Dawson Street and Wooster Street from 3rd Street to 17th Street. This time I'd like to recognize again our city manager, Ms. Hawk. Ms. Hawk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. This item will be presented by Engineering Project Manager Kyle Burden.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of council. As you may already be aware, Dawson Street and Wooster Street have been identified as principal arterial roads by the NCDOT and have been characterized as an area in need of investment. The Dawson and Wooster Streetscape Project, which is included in the City Transportation Bond Program, aims to implement these needed investments to the Dawson and Wooster corridor. The goals of this project are to increase pedestrian mobility, create a safer environment for both vehicles and pedestrians, and improve the aesthetics of one of the city's most important thoroughfares. On April 15th of 2025, City Council approved a resolution and ordinance to allow the city manager to enter into an agreement with NCDOT to reimburse the city for costs associated with the resurfacing of Dawson and Wooster Streets. Since the execution of this reimbursement agreement, the project has been bid and a construction contract was awarded by City Council on September 23rd of 2025. The actual cost of the pavement resurfacing work determined from the awarded low bid exceeds the previously agreed upon NCDOT reimbursable amount of $1,911,000. Before you tonight is a resolution that authorizes the city manager to enter into an amendment to the reimbursement agreement with the NCDOT, as well as a companion ordinance to appropriate supplemental NCDOT funds to the Streets and Sidewalks Capital Project Fund. Under this amendment to the agreement, the NCDOT has agreed to reimburse the city for additional costs incurred from the paving of Dawson and Wooster Streets between 3rd and 17th Streets and a portion of 16th and 17th Streets between Dawson and Wooster Streets. The new reimbursable amount of construction costs based on actual bid price agreed upon by both parties is $2,165,000. This milling and resurfacing work will be constructed in concurrence with the Dawson and Wooster Streetscape project. City staff recommends the passage of both of these items. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So NCDOT is going to reimburse us the additional money for this particular project. This is what this amendment is about.
Yes. So once we received bids, the cost for their portion of work was over what we had initially estimated, and they're contributing to that difference over what our initial estimate was.
Very good. Okay, thank you. All right, what are the wishes of council in respect to the resolution? We'll take each one of these separately. The resolution will take one vote. We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Spears, second by Councilmember Santaguida. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes unanimously. Now we'll go to item O2B, which will take two votes. I've already read it into the record. What are the wishes of council in respect to item O2B, which is the ordinance making the supplemental appropriation? We have a motion by Councilmember Santaguida, second by Mayor Pro Tem Spears. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Spears, second by Councilmember Joyner. Further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first as well as second reading. And that brings us to resolutions, which is our next item of business, which is item R1, which is a resolution in support of the North Carolina Department of Transportation South 16th Street lane reduction from Castle Street through Queen Street. And this time I'd like to recognize the city manager, Ms. Hawk. Ms. Hawk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. This item will be presented by our city traffic engineer, Dennis Volkanowitz.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of council, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
The North Carolina Department of Transportation is prepared to reduce the number of motor vehicle travel lanes along South 16th Street. While South 16th Street is a NCDOT roadway, they've requested City Council's support for this lane reduction in the form of the attached resolution. City Traffic Engineering has received requests and concerns from the residents, patrons, and business owners of the Cargo District regarding the desire for improvements to the pedestrian safety and additional parking opportunities. Traffic Engineering's worked closely with NCDOT to develop modifications to the public road network and the intersections that address these concerns, as reflected in the proposed project. Modifications include raised concrete curb extensions at the intersections, new pedestrian signals, and new crosswalk markings at the signalized intersections of 16th and Castle and 17th and Castle. These modifications support City of Wilmington's Vision Zero strategies to eliminate fatal and serious injury crashes, frequently consequences of crashes involving pedestrians. These modifications enhance roadway safety by reducing pedestrian exposure through shorter crossing distances and the installation of signalized pedestrian crossing infrastructure. These modifications along 16th Street necessitate reduction in the vehicle travel lanes. This proposal essentially extends the two-lane section of South 16th Street by one more block, providing desirable hardscape and pedestrian improvements for the Castle Street and Queen Street intersections, as well as additional on-street parking opportunities along South 16th Street. South 16th Street will widen back to 3 travel lanes south of Queen Street for the approach to Wooster Street. I'm available to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions for staff?
I have a question. Sure. When I'm in favor of this. Pedestrian safety is fantastic. I travel this road daily. There are a lot of folks crossing here. When I look at these photographs, it looks like crosswalks are being added at Castle and 16th, but not Queen and 16th. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's one of NCDOT's standards that they don't typically mark pedestrian crossings where there are not pedestrian control signals.
Okay.
So they don't want to encourage somebody just to step out into traffic unless there is pedestrian controls.
And is there a reason that we don't want to put in a signal at that intersection as well as Castle? Because folks cross at Queen pretty regularly as well.
I think any kind of traffic signal warrant analysis would need to be conducted to determine if a signal is even needed. I mean, if there's not enough vehicular traffic on Queen Street, it may not be necessary.
Understood. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. What are the wishes of council in respect to the resolution? A motion to approve by Councilmember Santaguida, second by Councilmember Andrews. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item passes unanimously. That brings us to item R2, which is the resolution opposing the Independence Boulevard extension. At this time, I'd like to recognize our city manager, Ms. Hawk. Ms. Hawk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, and again, Planning Director Linda Painter.
Good evening. I think Dylan's pulling the presentation up for me.
Say that again, sorry, Linda.
Dylan is pulling the presentation up
I'm
for me.
sorry. Okay, thank you. I can hear you.
All right. So to give you just some background on this project, the proposed extension of Independence Boulevard from Randall Parkway to Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway was originally added to the city's thoroughfare plan in 1972, and it has remained in the plan since that time. Over the years, the council has reviewed this project, including in 2014, when the council adopted a resolution in support of the proposed extension of Independence Boulevard. However, that resolution specifically opposed an elevated design and requested that an at-grade solution be used to minimize impacts on to the surrounding community. The visualizations on the screen before you are part of the draft environmental impact statement that has been issued by the North Carolina Department of Transportation on the project today, earlier this fall, and they have requested comments on the proposed alternatives by January 16th, 2026. As you can see in the visualizations, the majority of the proposed extension will be elevated above grade, either through a berm or bridge structures for the purpose of crossing CSX railroad corridors. One of the reasons, and the primary reason this is elevated, is because the railroad has decided that they will not entertain at-grade crossings of the railroad right-of-way. So as a result of this, there will only be 3 east-west connections, one at Darlington Street, one at Hurst Street, and one at Princess Place Drive. There are 2 alternatives that are being considered in the draft environmental impact statement, and the main differences between the 2 are what happens at the interchange with Market Street. So on the left side of your screen, you will see one alternative, which is called a single point urban interchange. And on the right side of your screen, you'll see a tight urban diamond interchange. So those are the 2 proposals for that. And you can see, just looking at the illustration, that the tight urban diamond interchange really takes up more land area and has more right-of-way needs in order to accommodate that design. That is also shown when you look at the right-of-way proposals for this project, and I apologize. These are very large maps, so it's hard to fit them onto a PowerPoint screen. But the top illustration is the single-point urban interchange, which was on the left on the previous slide, and the bottom is that tight urban diamond interchange. And so when you see that and you look at kind of the shaded areas of green, you get an idea of the amount of right-of-way that would be needed to be acquired for this project. Looking at the impacts of the project that have been identified in the draft environmental impact statement, it will depend on which of those interchange options is selected. However, we're looking at a potential relocation of either 59 or 71 residences, and I do want to be clear, those are dwelling units. Those are not the number of people that are in those units. So we do not have a good number on the number of people that would actually be displaced by this. Relocating either 31 or 37 businesses, relocating either 1 or 2 churches or other nonprofit organizations, and impacting approximately 78 acres of forested land, 3.8 to 3.9 acres of wetlands, and 1,900 linear feet of streams. In terms of other project impacts, the elevated design will create a physical barrier between Old East Wilmington neighborhoods. The draft environmental impact statement acknowledges that there will be adverse impacts, particularly to community cohesion. And when you look at the impacts, they will not just be felt by those whose properties would be acquired for this project. They will also be felt by property owners who remain, whose properties are not acquired. But instead of backing up to other homes and being part of a neighborhood, they will now be adjacent to an elevated roadway structure. It will reduce connectivity, as previously mentioned, and will likely reduce property values within the project vicinity. The draft EIS also acknowledges that the impacts of this project will be disparately borne by Title VI populations. So in terms of, just to give you an idea of what Title VI populations refer to, they are those populations that are protected from discrimination based on race, color, or national origin, including those with limited English proficiency or distinct ancestry or ethnicity. So the map shows you the percentage of population in these neighborhoods that are considered to be of a minority race. So you can see that there are disparate impacts to Title VI populations. It acknowledges that the benefits and burdens of this project will not be equitably distributed throughout the community. The neighborhoods that will be most impacted will not see the real benefit from this. The real benefits will be felt by people who are looking for a better north-south connection coming from the southern part of the county. Additionally, those who are displaced by this project, the report acknowledges that it will be difficult for them to find comparable homes in Wilmington. So this is not simply a displacement of their neighborhood and their social network. It will likely force many residents to move further away from the area to find comparable housing. So based on those findings and the adverse impacts that are identified, staff has prepared a resolution for the council's consideration in opposition to the project as designed. The resolution acknowledges that we do have north-south connectivity issues that we need to continue to work collaboratively with our partners to address, primarily the WMPO and NCDOT. It recommends opposing further consideration and investment in the project by NCDOT. It recommends that the WMPO consider removing the project from the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan and their current strategic plan, where it is identified as one of their top 6 priorities. It recommends that we continue to collaborate with our partners to find alternative solutions to north-south connectivity and continue to work on realignment of the existing CSX rail corridor. And lastly, it requests that any funding for the project currently in the STIP be reprogrammed to support projects in the city of Wilmington that would address congestion and access management on our existing north-south corridors. And with that, I'll turn it over to any questions.
Are there any questions for Linda? Okay. Yes, sir. Ms. Spears? Mayor Pro Tem?
Not really a question, just a reiteration of how pleased I am for staff to come together to do this. I've been opposed ever since. I'm shocked that even in 1972, this was a thing. Even there was no MLK in 1972. But just for this to linger on for so long, for over 50 years. And but for you all, staff, to recognize the detrimental impact that it would have on that community, and we all know, I grew up in that community. I grew up all over Wilmington, but it's just a good thing, and I really support it, and I'm really appreciative, and I'm certain some people who are not even vocal, they may not know yet, but they will be really pleased to see this stance that the city of Wilmington is taking. So thank you so much.
Mr. Joyner?
Let me just preface this with, I support the resolution and I oppose this interchange. But I want to ask some questions about where we are on timeline for the STIP. So you said we're 6th on the STIP currently?
No, in terms of the STIP, right now my understanding is that the only funding that's in the STIP for this project is for preliminary design and engineering. There's no right-of-way funding in the STIP. The reference that I made to number 6 is that the WMPO in its current strategic plan has 6 top priority projects that their board has identified as wanting to promote, and so the resolution asks them to remove that as a priority project from their strategic plan.
Understood, okay. Because my concern essentially is, it's not like we can pull this and put something in its place when it comes to the STIP. When you apply to be a part of the improvement plan, you start at the bottom and you climb your way up when other projects are completed, when funding becomes available. And so essentially the point that I want to make is, this is not something that we want to see advance. I think previous council members and previous councils have not wanted it to advance in this way. Important is the conversation around the railroad and their refusal to participate in a way that would have made this maybe a little more workable. But also, we need to say what we're for, not just what we're against. And you and I had that conversation in a smaller setting about making sure that we know what sort of connectivity north-south corridors we do want to advance with. And so I look forward to continuing that conversation. I do support this resolution. Thank you.
You know, going off what David said, I would imagine that the North Carolina Department of Transportation is going to continue to look for ways for that north-south
I think and again, the resolution acknowledges we have to continue to look to ways to improve our north-south connectivity. I think, and again, I will fully disclose this, I am not a transportation planner by trade. That's not my area of expertise. So we will work with those experts on that. But there are a number of other projects that DOT is looking at for College Road, for Kerr, that have the ability to improve some of the access management and congestion issues on those roadways. So those are things that it will not solve the problems, but trying to advance some of those other proposals can help.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, and to the North Carolina Department of Transportation's, to speak in their favor, they were asking for ideas. They were asking options. Even the executive director of the Wilmington Metropolitan organization, planning organization, Mike Kozlowski, he was saying, you know, Kevin, what do you think we can do, or you know, what is another option that we have? And so, you know, we were looking at Kerr Avenue. We were also looking at College Road and the congestion that happens there at front of Corning before from 4 to 6 o'clock, where you can't even get on 40 or come into town. So you know, those are things that they are entertaining other options. But like I said, this is just a great stance for us. And so I agree with David as well that, you know, we can speak of what we are opposed to, but we also need to come up with other solutions and other options to make this thing possible. But we do not need to destroy communities to make this happen.
Yeah. Councilmember Lau?
Thanks to staff. I also support this resolution, actually for the same reason I supported the last one. We talk a lot about traffic flow, and that's an important experience for all Wilmingtonians, is getting through traffic. And for decades, we've built our cities around roads. We've built our roads, you know, for cars. The city is built for cars. And so these last two resolutions have really honored that the city is built for human beings and neighborhoods. And so thank you for bringing these both forward.
Okay, thank you. All right. Do we have a motion to accept this resolution? We have a motion by Councilmember Andrews, second by Councilmember Santaguida. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. This concludes the regular agenda. Are there any items to be brought forward by our city manager?
Just a brief update on the earlier question this evening about the social worker applicants. Those interviews were completed on December 15th, and we currently have 7 of the applicants that were selected to move on to the background check process. So backgrounds are being completed on all 7, and then final offers will be made based on the results of those background checks. So that is currently in process. Just wanted to provide a little bit more detail in regards to that question, and thanks to our Human Resources Director for sending me a quick email on that while we were sitting here.
Thank you. Can you remind me how many the total is going to be that we're going to hire?
We created 4 new positions, and we already have 1 staff member on 1 social worker on staff who will serve as sort of a manager to help oversee those 4.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. You're already being brought forward by our city attorney.
Yes, sir, we do have a closed session at the appropriate time.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, anything?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, I'll start to my left. Ms. Santaguida, you have any comments?
I just want to share with the community that I'm really excited that the MLK Parade is coming back this year. It's going to be on January 19th at 11 a.m., and I hope to see everybody there.
Okay, fantastic. Ms. Andrews?
No, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, sir. I just want to say Happy New Year. Also want to say, again, let me congratulate you ladies for being on the Wilmington City Council and getting through a successful first meeting. And I look forward to many more positive meetings and doing the best that we can do to serve our constituents in our community. So thank you and welcome aboard.
Clinton Quintana?
I'm going to be a little funny here and thank the mayor for stating my name correctly. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm grateful to serve on our first city council meeting and very successful. I appreciate you all and look forward to continuing to serve you.
Ms. Lau?
I thank you for electing me, and I'm happy to be here. And I want to encourage everyone to follow, if you're on social media, follow the City of Wilmington's various pages, because a lot of awesome stuff goes out. I share some of it on mine. And you don't want to miss Tree Fest. You don't want to miss the hockey game between fire and water, hoses and guns. So follow those social media pages so you don't miss anything.
Mr. Jordan?
Thank you. I wanted to highlight, and I know that we're all aware well of it because we've been exchanging emails, but I wanted to highlight for the community that we lost somebody on December 30th, Alec Chambers, who passed in a drunk driving collision. And there's been a petition circulating on change.org. People would like to see the skate park at Greenfield renamed in his honor because of his background in skateboarding. And so just wanted to signal to the community that we are aware of that. I wanted to thank our city clerk who has been helping us navigate the process of that. Generally, facilities and street renaming requests originate through her office and with petitions to the Naming Facilities Committee. But just the way that this group of folks have come together to celebrate Alec has sort of been directed at us. So we're working with her to better understand that process and make sure that the appropriate channels are followed as we look to potentially rename that park. So to everybody who's reached out, absolutely, we've heard your concerns, and you have my sympathies, and I know my colleagues as well. So just wanted to provide that update for anybody who may be watching and is interested in where we stand with that process.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, do we have a motion to go into closed session? The motion to closed session pursuant to the provisions of North Carolina General Statute, Section 143-318.11, A and A1 and A5, in order for the City Council to, 1, to prevent the disclosure of information that is privileged or confidential and not considered a public record, and 2, to instruct staff regarding the city's negotiating position concerning the possible acquisition of real property. We have a motion by Councilmember Jaquima Quintana, and we have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Spears. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. We will meet here in the Rivenbark room behind us at council chambers, and at the end of the closed session, council will reopen its public session and adjourn at that time from this room. Okay? So we are now going into closed session.